Good evening, guys. Good evening, Jeff. Good evening, Luke. I see you sitting on the side there. Can you see and hear me okay? Same problems with that chat, Luke, but I've done the pop-out chat, so hopefully... Good evening, Romari. Luke, hi. Ben, good evening. Looking good. Audio is fine. Thanks, guys, for letting me know. We're live, yep. I hope I am. I'm going to pinch myself and find out. What else? Mark, good evening. And yeah, great, Jeff, thank you. From Togo, West Africa. Wow. All right. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, we're getting truly international. That's really good. Nice to see it. Thank you very much for coming along. And hopefully I can live up to your expectations. We'll give it a few more minutes because I know there are a few more people that are due to join. Hi, Wendy. Nice to see you. Can someone keep an eye on the numbers tonight? I still don't figure out how to work that one out, but it'd be nice to know who is watching roughly. Not everyone wants to say hello on chat. I understand that, but I hope everybody's having a well, I've had a good weekend, I suppose. It would be the thing. So yeah, all keeping busy and occupied. I suppose a lot of it in the garden because we've had some pretty nice weather the last few days, so making the most of it. I'm guessing it's really nice in West Africa right now, Romaric. So yeah, cool. That's stating the flipping obvious. But there you go. All right. So tonight we are a couple of minutes off yet. So we're going to be doing this charcoal, the image at the front. Now I chose two. I wasn't sure which one to run with, but I'm actually going to run with this one on this occasion, and I'll use the other one on another occasion. Try to find something that was a little bit you know, a little bit contrasty, and that's what I was looking for. I think I found that in this picture, but I was looking for something up on the wall. 2 minutes, I'll be straight back. No, I can't see it. I was looking for something. John, hi. How are you, my man? Glad you could join us. Hope you can stay with us tonight. Love to have you on board on the side and watching. I was looking for something that I can't see it, so I'm not overly worried about not having it here. Just scanning my books just to see if I can see it. No, not to worry, not a problem. Gorgeous photo. Where is it? It's actually at Dover. It's 10. Good. Thanks, Ben. Relying on you now. You got the job, my man. Yeah, it's actually Russell Gardens. If you park in the car park at Kersney, walk across the road to the follies that were made by the nuns years ago, and walk all the way along there to back towards Folkestone on the landward side, not the road side, the other side. and if you keep walking, you come to the end of all those sort of waterfall bits and the buildings and the follies that they've got there, and you walk over a little bridge and on out towards the country a little bit. And this is just a little bit of area that is beyond all of that, and I have painted it before, but yeah, it's beyond all of that. But that's the pair of glasses I've been looking for. There you go, one of those. So yeah, that's where it is, Wendy. It's a delightful place, and it goes all the way back. It actually creeps, the water creeps back towards the main road, and you keep walking, you're thinking you're out in the country, and all of a sudden you realize that there is a sort of a culvert under the road, and it continues back the other way on the other side. Wow, okay, thank you very much. I can't pronounce your name. I'm frightened to in case I get it wrong. Is that Salah? No, I'm not going to say it, but thank you for joining in. Yeah, no, not far from you. No, actually not far from you at all, Wendy. Right, okay, so what I'm going to talk about very quickly is a little bit about material, because although we often talk of charcoal, there's amazing lack of knowledge surrounding what we have. Judy, welcome, good evening to you. So I'm just going to talk quickly about some of the materials that we'll be using tonight, and well, at least hopefully, and we will go from there. First things first, the paper. Now, you can get very expensive papers. You can get papers that are what's that? I can't think what they are now. Good Lord. But they're very expensive ones, and you don't need those all the time. I have used them for drawing, and they are wonderful. But for my charcoal work, I use something like one of these. This is, if I get this right, I'm going to see which way the camera's going around. There we go. This is just a Winsor & Newton product. It's a smooth surface, which I prefer a smooth surface. I quite like the idea of not having too much tooth when I'm sketching and drawing. So it's a smooth surface, but it's heavy weight. That's the key. It can put up with an awful lot of punishment. Now this one that I'm using tonight is a sheet of this. I was going to use this one. This is the one I would normally use. And if you look at this paper, it's by Rowney, the competitors, and it's just slightly whiter than this one. You can see a color difference in there. It's not so obvious on camera, but it is there. There is a color difference. This was just too small to do the job with, so I've come to this one. So that's two of the papers. Bristol board, that's the other one. Bristol board is a lovely board, and it's quite heavy, as the name suggests, but it's just a little bit too expensive sometimes, and it's a little bit too shiny sometimes. So depends who makes it. It's not one type of paper from one company. It's actually a paper that is called that and made by several. So the second thing is we're going to be looking at using none of these tonight. No pencils. The thing about, if you put pencil, if you try to sketch in charcoal, or you're doing a charcoal drawing, if you use a pencil lead to sketch out your initial idea in a way you would if you were doing a watercolor painting or something, what happens is that the lead embosses or impresses on the paper and leaves a shiny surface, and what would happen is that the charcoal will just simply slide and slip off. It will not key to it. So never use pencil directly when you charcoal work. Okay, so this is just not me showing off. This is just me with the first time, I think, for many years, being a little more organized. I won't show you the amount inside. There's a lot more, and there's a tray that is just sitting outside. I just wanted to show you this purely and simply to show you some of the stuff that you can use when it comes to charcoal. So obviously the first things first, this is willow charcoal, and as such it's the easiest of all the pigment charcoal wise to put down on paper, but it's also the most fugitive. It's so unstable, and that therein lies its benefits and its beauty, because you can work charcoal so much. Hi Sue, just seen you pop up there. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. So yes, it is very unstable, but as I say, that is what is the charm about charcoal. And then you have something that is called compressed charcoal, which is what these are. These are compressed charcoal. Okay, now they're mixed with something and literally compressed. But these you use for your darkest darks. Let me put that. These are square Conte type ones. They come in a variety of shapes and sizes. In fact, I did have another one here somewhere. Where did I put that? Let's take these out of the way for just a second. This is another one. I won't open it because I think it's got a little crack, and therefore it will powder everywhere, just like that. Oh, just like that. All right, now this is a Derwent charcoal. It again is a compressed charcoal. This is a big, heavy, thick stick of it, and it's for gutsy work and paintings and all sorts of things. So it's another product to use. But in addition to that, you have, as much as you have material you can put on, you also have the ability to take off. And so you have erasers, you have stumpy blenders, you even have things like this straightforward kitchen roll that you can blend and move the pigment around with. So lots of devices that you can use to your advantage. What I would say is that if you're working on, sorry about that, I keep dropping bits of that charcoal stick over there. If you're resting on, then use a piece of kitchen towel when you're working over certain areas, because what will happen is you'll deposit a lot of grease from your hand by keep rubbing, and therefore it might become a problem, not so much putting the charcoal on, but getting it back off if you need to. So try and refrain from putting your skin too much on the surface of your paper. Haven't used charcoal for years. Good to see you using it. I love it, honestly. Given the chance, John, it's a great medium, and it's much underrated by so many people, and I'd love to see more people use it. It becomes very, very expressive in good hands. So right, okay, let's talk about that. The thing is that when you are using white paper, in the same way with watercolor, you can have a situation, no difference at all, as far as I'm aware. Not one better than the other, I don't think, Wendy. I just think they're both bits of stick from trees. I had somebody give me a quantity of oak and birch and all sorts of different ones to try once. That was a lot of fun. I still got bits somewhere. Anyway, sorry, I've digressed and forgotten where I was. You have essentially, like you have watercolor paper, the lightest color you have is your white surface to start with. Even if you later come back with like when you're working in watercolor, if you come back with gouache, you know it can be very effective, but quite honestly, it's never going to be as bright a highlight as if you'd left your white paper. It's the same with this. If you can leave your white paper, then that's the brightest light you'll have. So you need to preserve that when you're doing your charcoal. If, however, you wish to go over and you change all of that, then you could use white chalks, white Contes, white crayons, literally blackboard chalk. Also, I have a quantity of that here as well. And all of those can be used to bring back. But the point about that as a medium, so why don't you just get the cheaper ones? Get what cheaper ones? Not sure what you're meaning there, Luke. I mean, charcoal, got to be said, is cheap as chips. But But yeah, so if you use any of the white powdered mediums, the chalks, the Conte, the whatever, they will become cooler. When they are mixed with the blacks from over, they become quite bluish cool. So you'll have a different white than if you left paper. So the thing is, if you're planning on using white in your drawing, no problem with that at all, except make a decision at the beginning. Either the paper becomes your white, or you go in for white materials during or toward the end of the drawing. You don't really want to mix them, because you will see the difference and that won't look as good. Right, okay, so let's get looking at what we've got. I've already got a smudge, and we will start to look. Now I'm going to put this big box of vine charcoal out the way, put the lid on, because the last thing I'm going to be doing is knocking it over and picking up bits of crumbled and flaky charcoal for the rest of the year. So here we are, lots of different thicknesses, as you can see, and they come up into thickness as much as that, really thick and really thin. Okay, but they all essentially do the same job. And let's just put that to one side. I will be using that, but here is just a nice stick. The thing is that you can quite happily have several sticks going, because you can use the side as well as the top. But when I'm drawing, it's nice to have a nice long stick. So that's what I'm going to be using to start the drawing with. So let's dive straight in and see what goes on. Any comments that I need to answer before I go? Now, I think I've said hello to everybody, and I'm glad everybody's with me. So the main thrust of our image is this wonderful tree that leans out, and I'm just going to skate through and just look at one or two of the shapes that it's making. And of course, it's got this wonderful reflection coming off and through the water, which we need. This is the whole thing. But we don't want it, I mean, we've got a choice. We can either make it back here and put less of these trees in, but they add a balance to this one. And this one doesn't want to be so far forward, because we've got this lovely network of major branches that are leaning out, especially the one that goes down and around. So I might change a bit. I might sort of come in here, put this branch in to begin, and to suggest it comes back to there somewhere. And so this begins off as a drawing exercise before we go any further. And we've got to get our drawing right. And then if anything goes wrong, we can literally rub it back and start again. Some of the drawings I do, and I will demonstrate it on another week, another time, is where I pre-color or pre-tint the paper with charcoal as a starting point before I start the whole painting or drawing process. That can be a lot of fun too, because you are then working into the surface with other color values. And don't forget, when you're talking about color, tone or value, depending on what side of the pond you're on, tone if you're in England, value if you're in America. And I tend to work in both, like old money and new money. But there you go. So anyway, I digress a little bit. I'm just coming in here, and I'm just going to suggest one or two more of these big heavy limbs as they come out. There's a nice one that cuts right across this one, and we're going to suggest that very early on. Keep it nice and fresh, because this is a big heavy old piece of timber that's gone over, big old wood. I don't know what type of tree it is, so I couldn't answer that comment. If anyone asks it, just head that one off. And then there's this heavier one underneath, which we will put in like so. Let that then come down and bring this one up. And there are one or two. Now, if I don't get every part of this spot on, I'm not overly worried either. It is literally a suggestion. It's what I'm going to be doing, trying to preserve the white paper around there. It could get a little bit choked with the charcoal as I move forward, but I'm just trying to get all the essential ingredients in. I'm going to thicken up this part here, because it's quite thick up this part along this edge, but I seem to sort of, it loses out a little bit, so I'm going to put that in like that. Now I'm going to look at the two behind just very quickly, very close to that one, and just a suggestion of where that comes. And you can't quite see the base of that one's trunk, but this one you can see a lot more of. It comes very close to this one, and you can see the benefit now of having this long piece of stick for itself. Just checking, am I missing any? No one's adding any more comments. So yeah, you can see the advantage of having a nice long stick, because you can be more expressive with your lines and your marks. You can come in with small stuff later on as you feel the need to do so. But let's just work out all our drawing before we go any further. Look at where this comes down into the water. Then we've got maybe a little bit of the bank through the back here, and lights and darks. This is why I partly chose this, because of the huge amount of contrast that's in the whole of this to start with. Okay, but do not start drawing in the compressed charcoals, not unless you don't want to move it. This you can move with most of it, you can move, but you start using compressed sticks, you will not be moving that. It will not it will not want to give up. Okay, now I'm going to compress this scene down a little bit, and I'm just going to put in these two trees that are laying over here a little bit, and just suggest that going up gives a nice shape there. And I may or may not, I think I will put this bush in, but I'm going to literally give that a lot less space, and maybe even tuck it in behind this other tree, only because I really want to make a big statement of that. And it'd be interesting, I haven't looked at the other pictures that I've done this. I've done this in watercolor, and I've done it in acrylic. I did it in watercolor first many years ago, and I revisited it in acrylic for one of my books that is on painting water, called Rivers, Lakes and Streams, and it's on sale. I'm going to do a little plug now. It's on sale from Search Press, and they have, and there's a little bit of that hill going up through the back there. I'm just going to make sure I don't forget that. And then there's another tree there. Yes, you can buy it from Search Press if indeed you don't already own it, because I've sold a lot of my students a copy. So there you go. All right, now let's sort of, we've got the top section, but you notice that it's above center. So what I want to do now is to make sure that I've got all of this sort of bending down this way, and a lovely statement, and to come back into my shapes like so, and let that come off into the river. And we've got other reflective marks of other pieces and limbs, so that is that one. Let's just establish that first and foremost. And then we've got our tree, which is huge, and then we've got the reflection of the one behind, which is thickening up this trunk really well, and we can't really see too much of this reflection in terms of individual marks and shapes in the sort of river in that sense. I'm just going to put one or two sort of rippling marks just as ideas and suggestions, but this is predominantly quite dark in here. And then we've got where have we got, actually this is the one in here that's being reflected. This one we can't see because the reflection of this one is lost in this part here. So this is the tree here that we are sort of catching a glimpse of. There is somewhere up there, obviously out of shot in this image, a big limb that comes off this way, so we can suggest that, and then we can bring that in through like so, and we put a nice bit of gap between the two like so. And then of course we've got this one here, which we can play around with the shape of that limb, and we can bring that down through here, and another one which goes off at a more acute angle, and then this bank that's sort of coming around here, something of that nature like that. Okay, so we have got some idea of our drawing, our scale, what we want it to do, where we want it to go, and now we've got to start putting some meat on the bones. Didn't know you do books as well. Yes, I've done 2 books. I'm working on my 3rd. Actually, I've been working on that for 3 years, so it will come out one day. And I've done tons of magazine articles and continue to do those for many publications over the years. And it's all about art and one thing or another. And so, yeah, anyway, I digress. Again, I have a little slurp. No Guinness tonight, I'm afraid. I'm on my boss's restrictions, so there you go. No Guinness, not until after this, anyway. Right, so now I've got the initial drawing down, and excuse me. Now I'm going to start wading in with some heavier marks. And I'm using the charcoal on the side, on its flat, and I'm looking at all my dark areas, like so. And I can press and move and play with all these lovely shapes. And you can see how you can put a mark down, like this. And let's have a look at that big heavy limb that goes out through there. And if you don't like the mark, you can start losing it. You can start getting rid of it and start taking it away. Now, I didn't actually mention anything about erasers at the moment, and obviously we know the normal eraser, which is quite a firm, solid piece of rubberized material that we can lift stuff off, but it is quite coarse. It can be quite heavy. Having said that, there is a good need for erasers because you can draw in. When we're at school, we're taught from our early age that using a rubber or an eraser to take away a mistake, hence its name, to take away and to get rid of a mistake that we've created in our writing books. Well, we grow up into adulthood thinking that the only use for a rubber is when we screw up and make a mess. No, this is just a drawing, John. Hope that's okay. It's just going to be a tonal study in charcoal. I'm not adding paint to it at all. Yeah, so it will be a study and what it is, I hope, tonally. Anyway, this is a putty rubber. Now, putty rubbers come in a variety of shapes and sizes, grey ones, white ones, blue ones. This is the one that I use for my watercolor work. I'm not mixing it with this because this will get so plastered and mucked up, but it is virtually the same material. This started off life as a light grey one. Actually, there's 3 here, and these have been used by me. I've got 2 or 3 dollops of this laying in the box, and I continually use this. I don't clean it, don't mess it up. You can't do anything with it. I have known people regret doing it, but put it through a washing machine and it just destroys it. But don't do that. This has been used for Conte drawings, charcoal drawings for as long as I can remember. I don't know how many years I've had these. I bought several and they've just become this mess. But they do not deposit that mess on your paper. What they carry on doing is erasing the issue from your paper. So don't worry about how dirty these get, but do buy the soft ones. If you buy the harder ones, I think one is Rowney. It's quite a hard, and what happens with that, the outer coat gets a bit crystalline over time and it just doesn't work anymore. But if you go to Faber-Castell, Derwent, something like that, and get a soft putty rubber, a grey one ideally, which is the Faber one, which is what these are, it will last you for so long. Right, okay. Yes, no, that's perfectly good. I mean, you're teaching the right attitude. I mean, when we were kids, we had a rubber for one thing, on a razor for one thing, and that was to take out the mistakes out of our writing books. All right, So let's move on. So now we're going to use this, and the nice thing about the putty rubber is you can make lovely little fine shapes with it. So bear that in mind, and we're going to just go back in now, and I'm looking back into the drawing and looking at all the shapes. Now I'm going to come over a lot of this area because I want to soften this and suggest that there is a medium value, because of course we're not painting in color, we are painting in black and white material that can only suggest its value to us in its application, that we allow it. If we change anything, then we alter the amount of white to black that we get. There is a quite a well-known phrase or saying which I've used many times with students, and that is that and it's not mine, by the way, I've stolen it from somebody else, but there is a saying that in painting, that color gets all the glory while tone or value does all the work. And that's very, very true. And you know, you can think about things in many respects, that if you think of any painting and think of them as 4 rules. The first rule is, of course, good drawing. Without good drawing, you don't really have any sense in painting. And the second one is all about value or tone. And if you get tone correct, then you move on to the third most important thing, which are edges. Edges can be seen as soft or as lost or as hard. And we will do videos, I will do videos on all of these things given time. But, you know, I'm actually going to change that. I'm actually going to give that a lean and make that, I like that light between there. I'm going to keep that. So, sorry, I move away from the subject a little bit. But, yeah, we will talk about all these things over time. But the thing is that tone is the most important aspect in many respects, but the least important is color. And you might think, well, that's actually a silly thing to say. You know, it's color. Without color, you just don't have it. Well, actually, you do, because this is a tonal drawing. There is no color, and yet this will sing its heart out as a painting, as good as any other painting out there. So never be worried about literally thinking that because it's got no color in it, it's not going to work. Of course it will work. It's just how you lay down the material and create the tone and the values that we see. Okay, moving swiftly on, let's just carry on with this idea, and I want to come back in. There's actually a little bit of a tree through there. I'm just going to suggest that. But you can see that I'm putting on and I'm taking off. This will only happen for so many times, because obviously it's like a watercolor paper. The more pigment you put on, the less transparent it becomes. First off, it may be a transparent color, and you paint that lovely transparency on your white paper, and the white paper glows through. And the more layers you paint over, transparent becomes then translucent, because it's allowing less of the watercolor paper to radiate through. Eventually it will become opaque, and from opaque it just really gets muddy and you've lost everything. And it's the same with this. This will keep a lovely freshness about it all the time. You don't overdo it. The moment you go too far, then you've lost the battle. And I'm using the side, and I'm creating lovely marks with this material, and I love what you can do with it. But once we've got all this in, this is almost like our blocking in stage if we were doing any painting at all. Blocking in, we've done the drawing, now we're blocking in. We're starting to put the meat on the bones, as it were. Hope there's no vegetarians out there. I do apologize for that statement. Don't want to offend anybody. And even worse, I suppose, if you're a vegan. But there you go. Let's hope not the case. Right, I'm going to put this. There is another shape coming down here. Let's put that in. It comes all the way down to the water's edge. I've seen this, another picture I've got of this. I couldn't help myself. I just went mad with the camera when I found this. It's a beautiful place. As I say, if you're not familiar with Kersney and Kersney Abbey, it's the structure called Russell Gardens that is opposite. And as I said, that I painted actually for that book that I referred to just earlier. I painted several pictures from this particular area for the book. So there's actually, I think there's actually 3 of the painting demonstrations in there that are from this particular area. This just happens to be one of them. Right, coming all the way up here with the same dark. Now what I want to do is I want to just put on, I hope I'm not going to regret this, but I just want to put on some of this dark heavy black, oh dear, that has had a bashing because it's all come out in my hand. Let's get rid of that. I don't want to deposit. But if I put some of this compressed charcoal on, I don't want to put too much on, just want to show you the difference. I want to make sure it's not going to flake off. You can see where it's been bashed around. This is why it's one from the shop, one from the gallery, and I pulled it out because I could see that it was depositing, so I knew it had a bash. But if I just lay some of this here, see how much darker that area is. I hope you can see that. I'm not sure if you can, but if you can, hopefully you can see that it is a lot darker. But now you just blow the excess away. Now if I try and get rid of it, you see how it will resist being removed. It's compressed, it's gone heavily into the surface of the paper. It will not give up easily, whereas this stuff will just keep coming away in your hands. Lovely. Look at that, lovely. I had a lady, one of my students once, who refused to do the exercise on charcoal because it's going to make her dirty. So she had to sit the lesson out. That was a long time ago there. Lovely lady, but I could not get her to do any charcoals at all. She wasn't going to have any of it. Right, now I'm going to look at this lovely reflection through here in the water, and it's going to be darker than that of what it's reflecting up here. It's quite light in places. I want to preserve that nice light edge on this, but I want to come down here and I want to give this a whole mass of shapes and lights and darks through this area all the way out through here. Miss it right the way up, so I can't see what is happening and what is not happening. And I'm going to come all the way down there, deposit all this material, and I will eat back into it. Now I know I said the lightest area will be some of these lights that I leave, and I will try and leave 1 or 2 of them before I finish. I'm just trying to get that in. Now I'm looking at taking out a little bit of light here before I lose it. Just take that down there, and then I'm going to leave 1 or 2 areas that are definitely light and white paper, and then bring those darks in right along the edge of that trunk. Now you see how isolating that trunk in white paper and coming in dark against it creates that beautiful sense of light hitting there. And we're going to change 1 or 2 bits of it, but essentially we are it's just working. We are cooking by gas, I think is the right term. Cooking by gas. We're on a roll, and I think it's working quite nicely. So I love this. I just love the expression that you can get with playing around with this material. Now I want to bring in a little bit more of a light there and keep that, take that back while I still can, and create a little bit of a light shape. There's like a little funny shape in the ripple or the tree or the shape of the reflection anyway. And let's just come back in there. When you get so far with this, you want to stop. Yeah, she wasn't too happy about it. Jim with gas. Yes, I am. Hi, Jim. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I hope the weather's out there is really good, and you're enjoying this early afternoon. So it must be, yeah, it's early afternoon for you, isn't it, or morning? I'm not quite sure. You'll tell me. But welcome anyway. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you here. Right, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to put in the reflection of these ones. Just very, very express at the moment. Quite energetic. And then let's come in and put this heavier piece in, as that comes all the way out through the diagonal on the edge of the paper, like so. And then of course this small one, which we can suggest going off in that fashion. Now we've pretty much got all our major players and ingredients into this painting. I'm just going to come across here with one or two dark areas and isolate that light one that's running through here. I'm going to put a nice branch to that there, just suggestive at the moment. And it's not set in stone, none of it is in that regard. There's nothing here that we can't go back in and play with if we decide it's not quite working. I just done a they haven't seen it yet, but my patrons have got a it's 1:36 p.m. Monday. Just had your lunch. So yeah, I just done a Patreon a special Patreon only video yesterday, a wildlife piece of a hippo, and so they haven't seen it yet because I'm still editing it, but is a 1.5 hour painting which could have actually been done in less time, but I sort of almost wiped it off, not quite but almost, and started afresh 2/3 of the way into the painting because I wasn't happy with the drawing. So you know, you can do that in oil. This is where I end up covered. I scratch my face and I end up covered in black. So I'm not going to do it now, aren't I? So yeah, you can change tack. You can move and change what you're doing. Let's just look at this one here and this one here. What I've forgotten is this big one at the back here. So let's get that in, as it's supporting the drawing of the other one, and it will give lovely light behind this one, or dark should I say, nice framing to this one in the foreground. And it does come up quite, creeps up there, it's quite thick. So let's get all of that beauty in on this lovely old piece of trunk, and this one coming down here, which is almost at the foot of this one as it's coming down. And then we've got a lovely layer of dark in here down the bank to the water's edge. That lovely shaft of light that runs all the way through there, it's great. And let's come in with our dark under here. Now I'm starting to add material, and the thing is that if I want it really dark, I do have, yeah, black face, that's the one. I haven't already, have I? Probably have. But yeah, there comes a time when, you know, you start moving stuff around, you rub a bit off, put a bit on, do all these things, but you have got to stop, and you've got to, at some point you've got to decide enough tone has been put in, changed, mucked about with, and then you start getting in and honing in on your dark values all the way through toward the end. And actually I like that, but I think that's too close, so I'm going to take that out, take that all the way out. Case in point, I decided that that needs to come a little shallower as that comes down, and we can redraw that. Yeah, as I say, you've got to get your darks and you've got to start building. You can't keep putting on and taking off. Case in point, that was leaving a bit more of a ghosty image there. There is another one that is meeting another one that's got us a right old maze of branch work in the reflections alone, much less what's going on up here. But take them off, and these are a little less punchy than other ones, and So you just be aware of this one's here, you know, jumping all over the place. This one is hanging down and it comes behind this bigger one, which is not big enough, so that needs to come in, and we're going to take a bit of the pigment away from this one, and so it's a little lighter, it's got a little bit more going for it in terms of values and what we can and cannot see. And then there's this one up here which we've got to put in. It comes to an abrupt angle and comes back down this way, so I'm going to stick that in like so, and then this one comes underneath a little bit and I don't know, disappears there somewhere, can't quite see it. I think it reappears out here, so something like that. Alright, so you get the idea, and we are moving forward. I don't know how long we've been going now. Where are we? Oh, we've only done 40 minutes. Good Lord. What's up with me? Right, I better start dragging this out a little bit. No, I'm only joking. It will take as long as it takes, and it will finish whenever it gets done. So I'm going to come in with a couple of shapes here and some heavier marks through here. There's quite a large branch or material through there which needs to be suggested, and we've got the light one over the top, and you can't see very much at all. This is very, very thick through here, so let's put that whole thing in and let that come all the way up the top there. We will eat into some of this further on, like so. One or two areas coming back down this way. Now we've got lots of lights, lots of darks happening, and we need to refine some of those. And I'm going to come in and I need to actually, before I do that, I need to bring in a very large branch that comes over here. I suspect that some of this stuff this side, maybe this one here, is something to do with this tree here, and that bit that goes up somewhere like that, and take that down like that. That gives some idea of its thickness. Alright, and then it becomes a dark mass forming up with this one here, so let's put that in, and let's suggest there's a lot of growth and a lot of dark mass of trees and branches that bring these two together. Sorry about the noise, it's a bit yeah, I wish it was Jeff. Unfortunately it's just one of my, I enjoy, actually some people think I'm crazy, but I do enjoy cider vinegar and water with ice in it. It's got to be a special cider vinegar, not any cider vinegar. It has to be organic, and it has to have one with a special thing left in it. Don't ask me what it is. I am saving it till afterwards. It is going to be my little treat at the end of this. I didn't want any of you going off the idea that I'm a budding alcoholic. I've gone through that stage. I've gone beyond the alcoholism, and I'm joking. Anyway, sorry, I digress again. I'm just putting in a few values up into the background. Now they are going to be muted. We have to put in our blue values to give distance and aerial perspective. We need to do the same thing here. Just going to run in a little bit of dark all the way through these, so I can drag some of the material around and play around with it. So we've got light and we've got dark, and I need to make sure that works. And there's a lot of dark bits of foliage and light foliage, all sorts of stuff going in, messing these trees up, this scrubby stuff in the foreground. So we need to put that in. Okay, I'm not going to try even to start replicating every subtle change in terms of what you see leaf wise, grass wise, weed wise, nettle wise. I just want to suggest the shadows, the lights, the darks as best I can in that form. Now you do also know that those who are joining us late, that this area here certainly has been crushed down to get some of the elements in, that the picture itself needs that much more space to be able to do that in. So it will alter a little bit from the reference, and that's not a problem. I'm going to put the reflection of whatever that cut in the bank is, and there's the darks here, which I've got lights running through the area there. But I'm going to run that through like so we get the material working. Let that dark come all the way into the edge of the bank here before it starts picking up the reflection of that light there. And let's come in with some darks around here where the earth is damp near the water. And you can start seeing how we can start playing around with some of these lovely, it's almost looking through a hazy old photograph. I love all that. Hit the like button, guys and girls. Yes, please. Good for cleaning your brushes. What is? Oh, what? The stuff that I'm drinking? Well, it cleans something. It's probably my insides, I hope. That's the idea. My wife says it's good for me. I have to do as I'm told. And anyway, so yeah. I hope she's not listening. She probably is. Doesn't matter. If I'm in trouble, I'm in trouble. A little bit of a dark passage through there that I think is possibly the reflection of the tree which I've lost. I put a tree somewhere about there which is emanating out of all the bits of stuff that's going on in here, and comes down, and we can suggest there's a little bit more of it coming down the side of this tree before it disappears, but it reappears in sort of this space here, maybe a little bit further over this way, and then it sort of does its thing in terms of being a reflection. Alright, I'm going to leave that light. That really is a very light passage, and I'm going to save what I do there almost to the end. Right, already done. Hit the like button. Well done. Thanks for the likes. How many likes have we got? Probably not enough. Keep double liking it. All these things. Right. How are we doing? Yeah, I'm quite happy with the way this is at the moment, and I just want to put in a few smudges, and this is a stumpy. I think the name is, and I'm going to say this wrong, so if any of you out there are linguists or know better, please keep it to yourself. Let me just carry on in my ignorance. I think it's a touchon, something similar to that it's pronounced, but basically it's just a compressed wrap of paper or card. Now if you don't, I mean, these are as cheap as chips anyway, but if you didn't want to spend the money on one of these, or a variety of them, because they come in all sorts of thicknesses. I think I've got a big one that looks like a big cigar. You could actually take a piece of A4 paper, square it over, trim the excess piece off, and then make a wedge shaped roll, very, very tight roll, so that you end up with this very, very compressed, tapered, very thin tapered piece of material in the form of the paper. Just sellotape up and keep it, and then you can use it. Will do virtually the same thing. Won't last as long, but it will do very much the same thing. Okay, so this is great for picking up material from one area like so and depositing it somewhere else, and you can make very, very soft transitions of light and shade and darks and values all the way through this. And let's bring some on in here, and you can shape up some of the edges, soften some of the marks, go back in later on and create more. You can actually do something like this where you literally pick up material, and you should be able to press off the end. I used to do this quite a lot. That's why it's all gone a little bit horrible on the end. That's not working out too well. Maybe this is, sometimes you get a piece of willow that is just not going to let anything go. If on the other hand you did what I've just done with this material, you will pick some up. The railway modelers among us, of which I know, yes, they do work well with graphite too, so you're right. But as railway modelers, we use many of the pastel colors as weathering powders. We can take a cheap set of Chinese made or whatever, and there are many on their market of cheap branded or unbranded pastel colours or charcoals, and we can shave them down, and we get the pigment we create, and we can make weathering powders for our models in that fashion. And you know, you're not always having to buy professionally produced weathering powders if you don't wish to. I have the option of both, but you know, sometimes you just can't get what you want and you have to make do with something else. But they both work. They do very, very well, whatever one you do choose. Right, I got right off the subject. I do apologize. Let's just crack on a little bit. I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna suggest that comes down and out like so. I'm gonna give that a different path like so. Maybe make it a little thinner and then take some of the material away, and you can see that I'm eating into other areas, and that's fine, but I will re-establish those further on into the painting. And I'm just going to make some really dark marks, but then I want to tap one or two other areas within. Just suggestive, there's lots of subtle reflections that we're missing because they are reflections of overhead leaf stuff and all other things. So I'm just going to bring some of that in just by tapping the charcoal very gently over the surface, or little taps in different directions which leaves and deposits very different little marks. You can see how that's working. You can then come back up in here. I want to preserve some of the light up there. I don't want to lose it entirely. I want to suggest that there are other shapes going on as we come down. This also will help isolate this branch a little further by making the area around it just a little darker. Okay, and we're just forming and forming and forming. They work well. Yeah, sorry, I've answered that one. Sorry, sir. I thought it was a new comment. Right, just back up in here and look at some of the darks in this tree. I think this one could be a little bigger too, a little wider. So let's just reform some of those darks in there. And that's looking really nice. I quite like that. Just bring that down. So it's a definite shape and a different mark. This one here has lost itself in definition. So I'm going to come in and re-establish some of these shapes and darks up in here, and then a little mark off there to break that up a little bit. It's not quite doing what I wanted it to do. I'm not putting the final shapes and marks in at this stage, merely suggesting some of the lights and some of the darks of the bulkier areas and nothing more. I will come in and refine. Again, this is like a watercolor layer, the second pass, where we've put our first pass in, our washes, and now we're coming back in and we're looking at the next layer, and that's where we're at with this at the moment. We're on our second, and subsequent layers will follow on fairly soon. Right, I'm going to give that a bit more of a bulk shape there to match this one, and that will go off and become quite dark in here as well. It's actually as it comes into the crown of all the leaves of the tree. So we're seeing the light area at the bottom, these areas here with the light through, but then you get up into the canopy of the tree and you start losing all the aspects of light, because you're now looking at leaf and branch and finer branches, and you start to lose all the light popping through. We will put one or two back in, but we won't want that many. All right. A good way to end the stream would be drawing G-War stripes across your face. I could do that, but then that would be a source of amazing amusement to too many people that will hold it against me for too long, Luke. So probably not. Right. Okay, I'm going to have another glug and we are carrying on. This is starting to shape up quite nicely. How many still watching, Ben? Have I driven anybody away yet? Or are we still got our lovely people from West Africa? And there was somebody else that I couldn't pronounce the name of. They're from somewhere as well. I don't know. I didn't know if they said. I didn't catch it. Right, I'm just going to put one or two like little marks, little shapes in here. There's actually a shape that I've forgotten here, which I can't quite work out what that is, whether or not it's meant to be a part of the reflection of this tree here. If it is, I'm not going to put it in because I can't quite see it. I can suggest something here, but I can't actually make too much of it. There's not enough information in the drawing. It's not come this way far enough, not in my painting anyway. Alright, now I'm going to look in here and start putting in some aspects of dark that suggest water too. So for this I'm starting to look in at horizontal movements of the pigment, and so we get our darks in and establish those, but we're looking at drawing in ripples and shapes like this. Okay, keep them horizontal, they don't suddenly go uphill. Keep them horizontal and keep them moving as if they were eddies of water, you know, sort of moving through the picture plane as it were, and they start to create this watery effect as we go on. So where are you from? A person's name I can't pronounce. I wish I could say it without being offending you by getting it wrong. I wouldn't want to do that. Right, so I'm just coming in and putting some more material in here, depositing more, just messing it up now, starting to make it look like the water is not heavy wind because it's a lovely sheltered glade. I called it my Enchanted Wood, and that's just exactly what it reminds me of, as an enchanted woodland area. And yeah, it's just beautiful. Right, I'm going to bring that up through there and along here. And now, what am I missing here? There's something that's on here, is there. Then this breaks off. I see. Okay, I misunderstood that part there. So I'm going to bring that through here, and it's a much bulkier piece of material right the way off the edge like so, and straightens up something of that nature, goes into that big trunk. And I'm guessing it must be a reflection of, not this one, we've got that one in there, so this one I think must be this one up here that we're reflecting. I'm saying that, I hope that's the case, I'm not 100% sure. But then we've got this light section of this one here. Yes, this one here should be a little bolder, a little bigger maybe than I've given it. So I'm going to come in and just take some of that material off and just make sure I don't underestimate that nice light passage, because it is reflected in here. There's again a nice light piece of work. I'm going to take that through and try and make sure that I don't lose that. Pronounce Sayaya from USA. Ah, cool. So the J is silent, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken. Please correct me before I make a big fool of myself. But thanks for joining us. And so we got West Africa, we've got a couple from the States. I had somebody from Texas the other day, which was nice. Yeah. Actually, there's somebody that was going to be watching tonight, and I've just reminded me they're not here. At least I haven't seen them. Yeah, so I think Charmaine was going to be watching. If you're watching quietly on the side, Charmaine, just text and let me know you're there. And if you're not there, I can have a go at you next time I talk to you. No, that's true enough. I cannot say that word, that drink. I really can't. All these years I've been drinking it with friends socially at the studio when we have evenings. But, you know, I cannot say that word, and I'm not going to embarrass myself by trying now. I'm hopeless. I don't know what it is about it, but I just cannot say it. Right, I'm just going to come off here and bring this other nice reflection through here. And all of these tones, all of this look, the whole of this image is created with just this. Just a piece of burnt stick, basically. Going global. We've been going global for a while, Lou. You've not been following, my man. Right, let's come in here, and we're going to come in, and now I'm going to start by sort of refining the shapes, refining the look overall, putting in dark areas and refining the light areas, and just trying to get the image to sort of come under my control instead of allowing itself to run away and do what it wants to do for the moment, which it's sort of half doing, half not. But yeah, just by giving it all these little taps, and start to look at the drawing now in much more detail, start to see where you want these little refined marks, and in a way not to go back into them. Try and make those as your highlights and leave them there. Yes, we have West Africa. Somebody I'd have to scroll back, bear with me, I'll soon tell you who that was. Oh, way back. There's a long chat line going on tonight. Ramarik, you still there? Still watching? Hope so. Let me know. Yeah. Anyway, let's carry on. Now, to get little teasy little light lines, you just come across. I've shaped up this and made a bit of a blade out of my putty rubber, as you can see, like a little bit of flat edge, and I can drag that through and create little sort of light aspects of twigs and lines coming through. I can then come in with a stumpier mark and start taking away little taps of light, like so, and as the sunlight popping through the canopy in the reflection. But yeah, and it's all about I's and T's now. We've done the grunt, we've covered it all up and done areas that needed all the heavy work is all sorted. Now we're just playing around, well, not playing around, we're making sense of shapes and forms that can bring this to hopefully a successful conclusion. Now I'm coming in with some darks here, but I want to introduce some lights back into them, so there is this dark passage of trees and foliage through there, working up into this corner, and I'm just rolling this through, drawing. There's a bit of a sharp edge, drawing with that, rolling the charcoal all over the place to create different effects and different marks that I want to do. If I haven't got something that's too thick, we can always come back to something like this. It's got a little bit of a break on it. You can snap it in such a way. You have been global for over 2 decades, for as long as I've known you. Yes, I have been global. I've been showing all over the world, but that's true enough. I do forget these things, Jim. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, I have been showing all over the world. Right, okay, so let's just draw 1 or 2 lines in, and a little softer ones. So let's come in maybe with where are you? A stumpy. I call them a stumpy. I'm picking up a little bit of pigment, and I'm just going to draw in some very subtle little marks that are not going to be as strong as any of the others that I'm going to put in afterwards. They're a little bit further away, catching a little bit of light maybe, but they're creating a lovely variation of lights and darks in the background. Don't worry if they come over one of the trees. We're going to re-establish any of those final dark colors later on. Just want to sort of draw into some of this material and see where we need to take areas. Now here's the important part. This is what I was waiting for. I'm just going to come in with a very soft, gentle shade of the stumpy. I want to create, I don't know what's wrong with that stumpy. I think it's just had it too long. Right, let's just take off that. Try and pick up some of that medium and just gently deposit it. No, I'm going to do it with my fingers. That way I know it's going to happen. What I wanted to do is just create a sense of semi-light in here. You don't want to lose everything, because that's where the sun is really pushing up through there, and just maybe a little bit through there and there. And you'll see why, I hope, in a minute. Alright, like so. Right, and I'm looking to where I need that medium value before I start putting in and taking stuff in and out for the lights. So I'm just literally tapping my finger in places, muddy in the waters, excuse the pun. I think these are a bit too old for me. They've just been around for so long now. I think that they've suffered over the years and they're not giving good account of themselves moving forward. So I will probably either make some of my own or buy some fresh ones. Just tapping in a few grey areas. You can see how subtle against the white paper those greys really are. Very, very subtle touches. And I'm leaving my fingerprints over this. I don't actually need to sign this at the end. Just look at the fingerprint and you'll be able to do a police check and find out who the heck painted it. That's if you wanted to go to those lengths. But you can see how that is starting to mess it up and play around with the edge and the shape and the form. Maybe over here we need to do a little bit more. Just grey it up a little bit. Lose some of the start white contrast. Maybe a bit through there. And where are we in here? Maybe one or two just in there. Just dirtying it up, just playing around with some of these shapes and values. And there's quite a bit of green values and colours in here. In fact, I'm going to give that quite a pounding and drag some of that material off of that tree while we're doing it, and that will give me enough to go back in with. So when you're doing this, don't rub it so hard into the paper. If you do that, it's going to be harder to lift any out. You just want gentle little taps, playing around with the area and the shapes and the forms. Just gently, don't go mad with it. Okay, I think we've done almost all we can do when it comes to light shapes. I want to just drag some of that material off there, which is that little hazy reflection of light that's punching through. This is surface light, this is reflected light, this is the surface light from that shaft of sun way back that's catching this tree here on the edge here. It's just hitting the water through there, and we will lift some of that off later on towards the end. It's a very good question, Luke, actually. Glad you asked. The best thing with a charcoal is to keep it as you would a pastel, between sheets of glassine paper, or if you're going to mount it, then you mount it with, in the same way as a pastel would be done, by having some form of a gap between the mount, if that's the way you're doing it, and the glass, and a little trough so it catches any dropping of residual drops of charcoal that release themselves over a period of time, where the picture gets tapped and knocked and one thing or another. So don't spray it. Lots of people use a fixative spray. What it does is it kills the whole image. If you spray anything like that with a matte varnish or hairspray, which is commonly used on the cheap, these will kill your color. You don't do it on charcoals, and you don't do it on pastels either. Some people will do their first draft over and then they will seal that if it's a pastel, but I never touch pastels, nor do I certainly don't touch a charcoal with anything at all. Wendy, you still there? We still got you? Just checking on everybody. How many have we got, Ben? How many have I put to sleep? Look at the state of me. I'm going to be in the shower for the rest of the night when I finish this. Not sure if I'm going to get my beer at this rate. Right, okay, I am taking too much time. Where are we? We are an hour and 10 minutes in, so I do need to start cracking on a little bit. And I'm going to first off establish some of the lights back in. Taking this material off. This is when the magic really happens. 15. Oh, we've lost one or two then. I thought we had 18 earlier. this is where, you know, you've done, as I said, I keep saying, we've done all the grunt, we've done all the labor. Now this is when we start to bring out, this is like our Michelangelo's David. It's in the stone, we're just bringing it out now. We're just going to refine and let it become clear, and we put all these lovely lights back in, and we're going to suggest one or two here, and we can draw as much with this eraser as we can with the pencils or with the charcoal stick. And that's what I'm aiming to do here. I need to come back in and just, as I see them, make one or two corrections. I want to put a bit of dark there, and I think that there is a long dark line. I'm not quite sure what that is. It actually, you know what it looks like? It looks like a very old creeper that's grown up over this, but it doesn't look right. So I'm going to pretend it's something else and let it loose. I don't want to, it's not obvious quite what it is, so I'm going to leave that and just play around, just take that off to that edge and create that nice light. But using it just sort of brings that side of that tree to life and where we want it. Right, I'm going to bring our lights down and around, 18 top, 15 steady. Okay, well that's cool. We like the steady ones. Right, okay. Carrying on before I get too lippy. And let's just carry on and get this about where we need it to be. So I'm just thickening up some aspects of this which have got a bit lost. Then I'm going to come back in and just refine the shape so I can see where I can see the dark areas around the shadow on this particular one, and then just tack one or two marks in here to give this a better shape. There is obviously a dark under here. Now I need to come back in to shape it up on this side, so I've got it a little bit thick there. So I'm going to come back in, take that down and give that a slightly different angle, different shape, and just refine the marks that you're making as you go. Okay. Wendy, you're not answering me. That means you've got, oh, you are still there. Sorry, quiet as I'm engrossed in the painting. Oh, well, that's very kind of you. I'm glad you are. You'll be up there as soon as the lockdown's finished and doing your own version from life, I'm sure. Okay, let's just come in and let's refine this lovely area. This is the harsh, this is the centerpiece of our painting. This is where the whole of this thing will come together. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to take that light passage all the way out to there. Take this on, and it starts getting a little bit more fragmented down here. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to mess it up a little bit with some of these, and I'm coming in with some darks here. Oh, there you go. I knew that was going to happen. Sure as eggs are eggs. So I'm going to come back in with a thicker piece. I'm putting too much pressure on it. There you go, messing it up a little bit, and just seeing where that goes and takes us. I think there's a piece that comes off here which I actually have missed. Put that in just quickly. Right, we can play around with that form in a moment. I just want to get back this nice heavy side that I can see here, which has got to be actually, you look at that and there it should be down here, not back here. So again, it's a good reason why you check your drawing. Let's take that down a little bit, and now let's take that out of there, and let's give this light here, which I think is somewhere, I can't quite see where that's coming off of, but it's there somewhere. But let's give this that big bulky statement here on the tree, on the edge, and the reflection where this goes off here, and that's what we're seeing at this point, I think. Okay, and then that disappear into darkness, because I think we actually get another tree or branch or something that makes that disappear a little bit from sight, and then it just reappears down here, which we can just re-establish one more time. Okay, and then this goes across over here, but there's a lot of dark in here that needs to go back in because my hand has been laying on it, despite the fact that I told you all to use things like paper tissue and such like, and I haven't done the same myself. But I'm just coming in with one or two odd marks. May not be exactly what's on the paper, but they are very representative of the sort of thing that we're looking to do. And there is a lot of dark through here too, so let's get that in. That will help establish that light, like so. Alright, now I need to look at one or two areas. There's a lot of light in here which has now been lost. I'm going to prick out some of that, and this is where the beauty of charcoal is, the fact that it is so unstable. Now you could go in and put lights in the form of charcoal and chalk or pencil, but they will come out very insipid. They're nothing like this. To keep it fresh in this way is far the better for me, and it's the way I think about it. I'm going to use that as a dark branch, and then I'm just going to suggest a little bit of light on it coming out, just a merest suggestion. So it looks like there's something coming this way, but then I'm going to try and entice as much of this material off here to suggest that there is a light source the other side. It's catching the sun, or it's a sky hole, and that's what we generally call the sky that appears between masses of foliage in our paintings, between trees, are sky holes. I'm just going to put one or two marks in here that are sort of suggesting that there are little taps of lights and darks, taking a bit more material off in one or two places. And this is all I'm doing. This is all the whole of the rest of this painting will be, and you can see how this gets really dirtied up. Yeah, it's the desired effect. Look, I am, of course I'm scribbling, but look, those scribbles become part of the painting. Look at that, just how that just taps away and becomes light and branches and a whole plethora of different values of leaves in the background and light punching through the reflections. And let's come in here and look at the same thing. Let's play around with this. There is a dark area through, where is it? I think it comes off there and goes off up there, something like that. But then there is another one that actually I started to put in and I've lost. I'm going to put it in there now. Let that come through here, and I think that will come on and join over here like that. Something of that nature I think will work like that. And we've got a little softer value of this tree as it goes round, so it's not catching as much light. And then that dark area there will become a bit of a light area. I'm going to take off that material like so, and then I'm just going to put one or two taps of dark in here. And if I want to use the negative space on that, hi Lucy. No, thanks for joining us. That's cool. I'm glad you're enjoying them. I didn't see you here earlier, but thanks for joining us, and you can catch the playback later on. Right, okay, I'm just going to come in with a little bit more light to suggest that this is catching more. And we said that that was that tree there, but I need to illustrate that that is in fact the tree, and I want to come in with one or two definite shapes and marks, and then just tap away up in this corner like that. And if you want to put linear line, long horizontal lines in the same way I'm depositing black marks, you can sharpen up this putty rubber. The more you do it, the more it gets soft, because obviously your warmth of your hands is making it much more pliable. but then you can just sharpen it out and just drag little areas through like this, and it makes the light of the reflection light. You can say this part of this tree, the reflection here, you can actually, that does get a little, there is actually a lighter part that I keep missing. There's a darker part up in there, but then there is this lighter part through here which I need to try and put in. And then if you wish to sort of mess that around and bring that into, it doesn't in this part, but I'm going to do it anyway, is that you can just bring in one or two areas that suggest that the light and the reflections are catching a little bit of light and you're coming into the dark masses. So let's carry on, and one or two lights down in here. To me, these look like old photographs in many ways. Just that softness about charcoal that, you know, it's like looking at an old photograph, to me anyway. Right, I'm going to tap in some lights in here, and I want to bring some of these areas back out that have been lost. And you can suddenly see how that picks up. And in here, now drag this through, give that definite light grassy look in the background there. But now I'm going to sharpen it out, and this is why I did this before, is I can use this edge to create lines that are going up the hill and look like that the grass. I'm going to come back in at the bottom and change some. I just want to put in suggestions of light like that. Maybe I'm going to bring a bit more into there. I know it's not there, but I'm going to bring that in just a bit more anyway. And I'm going to just suggest that these get closed off a little bit. Okay. And just want to try, if I can, to bring out that little bit there so that we think that the field is continuing on and beyond. Alright, now this tree here has got this tree coming down it, but there is also quite a bit of dark stuff and growth in here. So I'm going to put that in, tap it around, mess it up a little bit. I'm doing that for a purpose. I need this dark part of this tree to sort of make its presence felt, and then I can come in here and give this the light that it needs to make its presence felt. It will disappear into a little semi light, but not much, as this disappears into the canopy, so we can just see that we know where that tree's going. There's one or two little light taps up in here where the light is just popping through. Put some of those in, and then just work on the bottom part of this tree a little longer and give that, and take as much of that material off, but be careful you do not go back in on it, because you want that now to remain. I'm going to bring some of this through here because that light is flooding through this little aspect. And I know I've got a slight difference here, but I'm going to bring that down through like so. And that light into there. And that's that light. This is it. This is the point of which the greatest degree of interest in our painting is here. A little bit of light coming right down in there. And again in there. Softening the edge a little bit, because when you look at whenever you get a situation where you've got extreme contrast, i.e. extreme light to extreme dark, and if you're looking into the light at the time, i.e. contre-jour, then you are going to see a softer edge around that dark. It's a play with light in the eye. You can't actually see a distinct line between black and the white in intense light. It gets a little bit blurred, and that's what happens here. It's just a little bit blurry where the light is popping, and that's what I've tried to describe there. Okay, and there's a little flush of that light through here, so let's bring that in. And that eats into the side of this a little bit. And then there's some, it's light but it's not as strong as this, but you can't do a lot with that, so you're going to have to run with that. Little taps making subtle changes between values so that the material gets dragged around, and you suggest that there are darker bits of foliage still reflecting as well as the light popping, and you're picking up in the same way as the Stumpy is doing, you're picking up little bits of colour or pigment, in this case the charcoal, and you're depositing it somewhere else. And if you keep doing it like muddying paint, you'll continue to add more and more into the area that you keep tapping. Or you can keep tapping in another area and you'll erase an awful lot. Right, I need another glug. Right, okay, we're gonna carry on, and aware of the time, and I'm gonna eat into some of these shapes now. These are where we've got little lighter marks, and I'm just putting in the suggestion that there is light in amongst all this beyond. We've got this to do, and we've covered that quite nicely. I'm going to tap in here and just fuse some of this together and soften what we're seeing, because there is our centerpiece, there is our critical point of the painting. All of this is supporting act, so I'm softening some of the edges and some of the marks. They may be strong in the painting, but I want to soften one or two of them off. You know they're there, but you don't need to know every aspect of it. You can just make them softer, and therefore they draw the eye to this point here, which is my aim. So I'm just taking some of this off. A little bit more concentration. If you can, where these marks are way back, try and make them little smaller ones if you can. I forgot that. I'm just trying to, you're gonna keep having to tap and point up your eraser, but try and make these marks, because some of them do stand out and they do look in scale, I suppose is the best way to put it. They look as though they're much further away, of course, and that's the aim of that. One or two taps in there, but you have to keep repointing this and keep there. I don't know of any other material that will work it in the same way. If I couldn't have a putty rubber, I probably would stop drawing in charcoal, because I just think they're synonymous with each other. You need one, will not work without the other, not properly. Just going to suggest a little bit of light coming off of this one here, dragging a little bit of material away from it as it goes off and into and joins that tree. And there's one or two areas here, and I want to look into anything down here that repeats itself there, and constantly looking and checking and seeing where I need to take any more or add other bits in. Okay, there's a big mess of stuff in here, but I want to drag off not as much light. I want to drag off a little bit of medium light, suggesting that there are those sort of shadier leaves that are breaking up this shape and this form. So try and make them that you pick out little soft areas like so. You don't want to do it over the whole thing, of course. It's just little clumps of leaves like so. You can go back and reinforce any of the dark parts you wish to if you feel that you've overdone it. Okay, you can do exactly that. You can come back in and you can just tap one or two darker areas in just to redefine those shapes if you need to. Right, okay, we are concentrating down here now, and we're going to bring some more material off in here. Lots of lights, little statements of light. And that's our tree form here, and I want to, I think there's, where did I say that other one was going to come off here somewhere? So we've got our bend in the tree there. I'm just going to come back in and re-establish that a little bit more. And then we've got that little line that comes down through here. Now this part of the painting you can keep on and on and on with until you're absolutely satisfied you've nailed it. But for the purposes of demonstration, it may not go that far, because I do need to put in some of the other forms and the darker marks, which we haven't actually fully explored yet. Just going to put in a few teardroppy type longitudinal lights coming through this way, which just break up some of those forms, make them a little more interesting. And create that light through into that bottom part there. And then we want to drag this light through here. This is what I was on about before. Just literally the whole lump of rubber just coming through here. Don't want to take, it's not going to be as bright as some of this. It's quite murky. So this is still got to remain the lightest form. In fact, you can almost see that running through there. Okay, someone just sent me a photograph. I don't know what that is. And just coming through here like so. Is that you, Jim, that just sent a photograph? Right. Just one or two taps in here and break some of these edges and forms up here. Right. Now I'm just looking at this area because I think there's one or two lights that need to go in here, and definitely need to do something in here which I've neglected. So I'm going to quickly just explore that and put a bit of light into there. I keep looking actually what you're seeing on the screen, because I can't, I'm seeing this, but I'm also seeing what you're looking at, which is quite interesting really, because to see how the two differ. Okay, screenshot, thank you. Right, I'm just going to play around with that just to mess that area up just a little bit. I'm having fun with this, got to be said. I want to put a bit more light through there. Gently easing some of that out. So again, you're not quite sure what you're looking at, whether it's a reflection. And I can quite categorically say that this is all reflection. The river goes all the way out through the back here. And up here is tree canopy, of course, but this sort of level here, up through here, is all reflected surface. And so I'm just playing around with some of those now before we dive into the final bit. And try and put that back in a little bit more. Right. No, you didn't disrupt it. I just heard it come in on a ping, and I didn't know quite what it was. I always look at messages like that when they come in, and I'm not quite sure where they've come from. I'm just going to come across with one or two light marks now to work with those dark ones. Scratching this material off as best I can in places. Constantly reshaping this in my fingers. Just love all this playing around. Just trying to allude to some of the lighter forms around the shape of this heavy trunk. And there's going to be a few darks that I've got to put in down around here, which are suggestive of the root stock of this thing that's holding it still into the ground. And a little shadow immediately under there where it's obviously lost the light at that point. Alright, okay, now I'm going to go in and I'm going to draw with a finer piece of stick, something quite thin, and I'm just going to drag it through one or two places. Alright, so we've done pretty much everything. I keep seeing bits that I want to do a bit more too, like up in here. I just want to play up in here for a minute or two. So I want to take some of that light out through there, which could be leaves and light picking through there. Okay, I'm going to leave it alone because I'm going to keep on forever, otherwise you're never going to get this. I'm never going to get my Guinness. Right, okay, so I'm just literally putting one or two sort of finer branch marks to suggest, and this will bring this to pretty much an end at some point in the next 10 years. And we can just bring one or two, but make sure that they mean something, that they're not just lines that aren't in the right place. You can make these and refine these and put as much or as few in as you wish to. Coming on down, make them quite dark. There's a few that are hanging through like so. Those that are coming down here, put that back in and establish that a little bit more. One or two this way. And then of course if they go there, then that's a bow, which we need to just put a bit of dark in underneath because it's not got a shadow area right now. Like so. And then one or two of these come this side, and that establishes the fact that they are real, and this is a reflection. That's real, this is reflection, and so some of these bits and pieces are going all over the show. But you're not trying to recreate the trees in that sense. You're not trying to recreate every subtle little bit. You're just merely trying to suggest the areas, the small bits that are going around, down, underneath, beyond. Oh, I'll get that bit later. And just carry on. Putting a little bit of descriptive form into this branch. So it's the yin yang of the light and the dark are playing with the sunshine, as it were. And one or two areas up in here as well. Giving that big old gnarly tree some texture. Now there are a lot more viney leaves, branches all over this, and I think on my original paintings I did describe some of that in the painting, but for this purpose we'll be here for a month of Sundays, and I'm not going to do that to you. It would be most unfair. So I'm just going to keep this to the lovely tree that it is, and it does the job it needs to do quite happily anyway without doing too much. I'm going to take a little bit of that material off there and then just come back in with one or two darks, play around with that a little bit, and then I can bring one or two sort of branches through and across like so, one or two that are going off up into here, and again there's quite a large one here. Now I do need to do the reverse on this one. Where did I put my eraser? Got an AWOL, there it is. And some of these forms that are coming back through are sort of drawn off in the lighter. So you're bringing off some the reverse, and you're using your eraser to create the lighter areas of bits of tree and stuff that are coming down and through like this, and let them draw down, catching the sun and these long lovely branches that come across these other forms like so. One or two coming down through here. Let's just break this up, this little dark mass up, and there's quite a long one through here into the water. We're not going to put that in, I'm not going to bother with that one. Just one or two areas like so, which are just nicely dragged through, and when we finish this we will put a few of the dark ones back in as well, and we can really sort of, because there's so much going on and the eye really can't settle on any one aspect or another, and that's the thing, you see so many different shapes and forms going on, because it might be a bunch of leaves but some of them are in darkness, some of them are in light, and you're just trying to recreate the spectacle of the light and the darks, and you can't create, you're not painting leaves, you're painting clusters or shapes and forms of leaves. So I'm just literally tapping a few lights off that's suggesting of leaves, darks, lights, and maybe one or two other drags through like so, and it's just seeing little bits more, little bits here, little bits there, and just acting upon them when you see them. I'm getting carried away with that eraser again. Let's just come back in now and establish a few of these darks that run the same line as these lights you've just put across, so you give them a bit of a shadow, so as they come through the tree then they have their own form and they can carry on like so, and they become a little bit more than just a little white mark that runs through. And you're picking out, you're seeing little shapes. Within the shapes you see shapes, and you're adding to those shapes, you're giving them more information. Now if anyone's getting fed up, let me know please. I've moved that picture, you can't see what I'm painting. There you go. If you're getting a little bit tired of me, then let me know and we'll sort of get close to winding this up, and I can always finish it another time. So don't feel frightened that if you think that you've had enough of me tonight. I will not be offended. I have been gassing on for an hour and 3/4 now, so I will not be offended. Let's carry on, and I'm going to carry on until you tell me to shut up, and we'll see what happens. And there's a bit of dark in there. Now I have not deliberately not used any of the compressed charcoal. I'm always a little bit loath because like chalk and compressed white, it goes a cooler color, and it's the same with using it's the same for using compressed black. It's a different black, you can't match it in. Willow or charcoal generally is quite a warm value of black, but the compressed is a blue black. It's a cooler black, and so if you stick it on, you saw somewhere in here where I put that little bit on, it's quite different. So I try and do whatever I can by using this material and leaving it as dark as I can possibly make it. And I can't make it as dark as I can make some of the other, that's true enough. But I think this, if you get those values about right, this makes for very lovely darks to lights. A little bit of underneath, that's reflecting all of this in here. So this is being reflected too. And I think I've missed a bit there. I'm going to bring that down through there. Right, something like that. What else do I want to do in here? There is something there. I'm going to leave that out on purpose. So I'm going to put one or two suggestive bits of twig and stuff that are emanating from behind all of this stuff. Definitely. Oh, I've done it again. I don't really like using small bits too much. I'm too heavy-handed for the little bits. I like going through packets of this stuff when it's small. But there you go. Shouldn't complain. It's lovely stuff to use. So I'm going to bring across now. There's a little bit of light on something coming across. So I'm going to bring that. Where can I bring it from? I'm going to bring it from up there and bring that down and let that come across like so. And I'm going to give that a bit of shadow down this side as it goes away. Okay, I think that just about gets that. Don't like it, you can always take it out, never a problem. Okay. I'm going to start drawing these viney bits in a minute. I don't really want to do that. So, but if I go quiet, I'm just looking, thinking, checking. Don't worry about it. I haven't fallen asleep just yet. Ah, good. I'm glad you're enjoying all this, guys. Right. Carrying on, making some more watery statements. And don't forget that this Friday, of course, is a watercolor demonstration live stream at 7 o'clock, and I will be doing my stuff then, and hopefully as many of you as can join me. And yeah, it'll be fun. I don't know what the heck I'm going to paint yet, but by Friday, or certainly by Wednesday evening, because I have to advertise it to everyone, so I'll have worked it out by then. I'm not quite sure. Got one or two ideas, and I want to do this time next week. I want to do a oil, and it will be. I'm gonna repeat one that I did film but couldn't release. I'm going to be doing a tiger's eye in oil. I fancy doing that, and I did it for my patrons, but unfortunately the hard drive got destroyed and I lost the footage, and it's trying to be recovered, but it's not been recovered as yet. So I'm going to try and recreate that on YouTube for patrons and the public alike, and just paint the fur and the eye during a couple of hours of painting next Friday. So hopefully you'll join me for that too. But yeah, it should be quite nice. I should quite like the idea of it. Just give my mouth a rest. You'd all be so lucky. You still there, John? Or you gone off modelling, or are you watching a train video? Well, if you are, I won't know, will I? Back up to 18. Oh, good. Well, if you haven't said hello to us on here on the chat, then maybe just ping a little message there to say hi. Right. Okay, no problems. Cheers, mate. I'm just going to put in a little bit of bank detail here, which I haven't actually attended to. Oh, see what I'm saying about this stuff? It just pings away from it. I'm going to be searching half the night now for all these little bits of charcoal that have gone flying across the floor somewhere. Just giving this a little bit of scribble. Luke, watch, scribble. A little bit of scribble interest in the foreground of the bank, just suggesting that there is lights and darks in the scrap and weeds and nettles that are around the base of this tree, bits of grasses going off in the near foreground, as it were, and then maybe just one or two little bits of dark up through there, giving the edge of that tree a little bit of form. Like so. It doesn't need a lot, and come in with a bit more dark in here, tap that away. Good, make some for me, John, will you? That's my next task. I don't know if you can see over my shoulder there's several different stages of trees working over there for sanding. Yeah, having issues with the platform heights at the moment. I got them perfect. I'm sorry guys, just digressing while I do this. Yeah, I just sort of spent ages on some platforms for Ashford, and I spent even longer with the micrometer working out heights, so I got the thing so close to the height of all my coaches. I really did work hard on it, and only to find that today I put a full CEP through, and my bill, and they just scrape along some of the edges on the turns, and as forget putting an 08 through, that just looked at it and said, I'm not even going to try it. So I'm in the dilemma, do I rip it all up or what at the moment? So yeah, it's really annoying, but there you go, all part of railway modelling, or modelling generally, I suppose. It's one of those, what it is. One or two areas and taps through here. So some of these darks then suggest an add weight to some of the lights. Maybe just give that a look there, and one or two other very fine marks to suggest that there are other things happening down here, and one or two ripply marks in the water like so, that suggest that there are other bits of tree, branch and stuff being reflected. Like that. One or two in here. This is a little bit clean in here, needs a little bit more stuff going on. And in the same way here, just one or two darker leaves that are being reflected off of the edge of that tree. So they're tapping away, and some of those taps are lifting material as well as you adding new material into that space. Oh, okay. And just one or two light darks and little reflections through there like so. Oh, I hate that when it does that. Like that. we're getting close to the end of this. I've had a lot of fun with this. A lot of fun getting dirty. Losing darks into lights, lights into darks. That's what the whole of this painting's about, is about contrast. Yeah, you're not kidding, John. You're not kidding at all. Right. Now I'm putting 1 or 2 dark marks. Now the thing about contrast is that although we lost quite a bit of the white paper, intentionally in most cases, is that it's hard to get that white to look brilliant white again. But the one way to do it is to put these darker values right in there. Look at that, and that really pumps out the white again. It makes it look brighter. And so when you want something to look dark, make everything around it lighter. And if you want, if you want everything to look dark, make everything around it light. I just said that. I meant the other way around. You know what I meant. Right. A little bit of dark right against that light there will help that no end just there. And that just punches out the light that's gone on behind that. And there are 1 or 2 areas where I'll put that dark in. There are 1 or 2 suggested lights here that are being picked up by the sun, which are edges of rootstock that are coming down into the area of the river, like that. Just want to put those in. And how are we doing on time? Oh my lord, I'm sorry guys, I've gone way over time. I'm going to put a little bit of light in, dark in here. Now I said that light is translucent across there, but there is a little bit of dark that comes back into it through here, and a gentle play with the medium, just a gentle pull through, and then just a little tap down there very, very softly. It still looks like it's going through, but what it's done is it's made that little bit of light on the tree stand out that much more. You've lost nothing, but you've gained a nice light source through there. A little bit of dark coming up into that bit there. And yeah, let's continue this on through here in 1 or 2 places where we've got suggested light in there and dark. Letting that suggest that's running away up the background a little bit. So now we're creating light and dark in water, but it's a lot lighter than the dark down here. Just tapping in a few leaf reflections. Yes, that's it. Exactly. To make it look white, put dark around it. To make it look dark, put light around it. There you go. I got it right this time. But that's what I was trying to say. All right. Now I'm going to put 1 or 2 areas in here. But you can keep this going for so long. Yeah, there's just so many marks and twigs and lights and darks you can put in to just create the look that you're aiming for. And equally, like we did over here with some of the things, you can actually create a little bit of tree line going through here over this one and across there. So you could have a tree branch that's coming through that lighted area, just enough light lifting it, but it could go on like so. maybe a little thicker, and dragging one or two this way through here. Nice one right the way through there. Look at that. I like that. And let that come on. Maybe actually let it join like there. Okay, that works. And then you can just come in with a little bit of dark to give that a sense of shadow underneath it. Something like that. It can come across that piece and that can come underneath. Maybe a little bit there. I'm adding a little bit more in than actually exists, but it doesn't matter at all. There's just a whole heap of stuff going on. Oh, okay. Thanks, Paul. Enjoyed the session very much. Got to go. Sorry to lose you, but totally understand. Thank you for joining us, and I do hope that you'll maybe check in on another one in the future. As I say, next Friday. Yeah, next Friday is going to be a watercolor, and following Monday is going to be an oil, and it's going to be painting the eye and the fur around a tiger's eye. We're going to do that. I've got foliage material everywhere. Yeah, there's plenty here to go around, John. You want to see? My wife was pulling up some of the created last year's growth from the lavender, and I have a huge area the size of my painting desk covered in natural tree armatures that I think I could build a forest halfway around Dymchurch, much less my workshop and my train room. But that's another, we won't go there. But I know exactly what you mean. Are you using wire trees, or are you going, you're making natural armature? Right, and just a little bit there. And I think we're sort of getting to the point where, yes, we can keep going, but if I do keep going, you'll still be here come midnight, as will I. And that's not good. I'm just going to break that straight line up a little bit, and I'm going to put in just a little bit more light there on that side of that tree, and a little bit further up, and tap some of that away out there as well. Put a little bit of light in one or two places here. Yes, so anyway, thanks, Luke. Appreciate that. It's just, to me, you can do an awful lot with black and white material, white paper, black charcoal, and that's all I've used to create this, and a very well used putty rubber, which is showing, thankfully, no signs of giving up the ghost, which I'm really pleased about. But that said, these are well in need of a good clean. So yeah, cheers, Jim. Thanks for joining us, and that'd be great, and glad you did. Hopefully you'll join us again for other evenings in the future. They are, as I keep saying, they are every Monday, every Friday, and if you're one of my patrons, they are every Sunday. But the Sunday one for my patrons is changing from the morning to 7 o'clock in the evening. So I have an American patron as well, so it's fair that they have a chance to see that demo. So we're going to do that. We're going to change it, and it also means that the Sunday morning, if you guys want to get out and do your gardening, as I suspect happened this Sunday, then we have the opportunity to do that. And so I'm going to make all my demonstrations in future 7 p.m. and that's GMT, of course, if you're not on British shores. And yeah, there's going to be Monday and Friday. Monday will be a media, oil, or something else. Friday will always be a watercolor, and the Sunday one will be whatever I decide it's going to be. I cut bits off of dead plants in the garden, polyfiber from fine chopped sponge flock, and the greatest thing I've ever made. But it's fitting, it gets everywhere. Yeah, I've done a lot of my own flock. It's a bit of fun, bit messy. My wife loves it when I disturb the cat, push it out the airing cupboard and put my flock in there to dry properly. But there you go. But anyway, I digress. I'll always talk trains with anybody, anytime, and all my students will know this. So yeah, not a problem. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed my Enchanted Wood charcoal drawing. It was a bit of fun. I'm just going to take off the tape now and reveal it. It's probably not going to stay nice and white because there's probably a build up of charcoal, but I do like to see this like reveal session at the end, so hopefully you'll get that. The water is very real. Bye all. Are you off, Judy? We haven't finished yet. You've got another 3 hours to go yet. Right, I'm just going to put this down. Hold on to that paper. I don't want to rip anything. It's not as strong as some papers, so I want to be careful. Yeah, it's tearing. You see how that's torn down that edge of that paper? Not a problem. Call it deckled edge now, but it can happen. The tape is just a little too aggressive for the cartridge paper, unfortunately, and it can suffer. So I'm just taking this last little bit very, very gently. I didn't see that start, or so I would have held back, but not a problem. It is a lovely sketch, and it's starting to pick up there. Oh, there you go. Not quite got away with it, but nearly got away with it. There you are. So you can now see that with a nice whitish border. Satisfying seeing a crisp edges when you remove the tape. You're so right. I love it. It's going to take you 3 hours to remove the tape. No, it didn't, but I perhaps should have taken a bit longer on it, John. But there you go. So anyway, I'm going to leave this running for a few more minutes, and we'll sign it off. So if anyone's got any questions about this, the charcoal, the process, now's the time to tap them out and I'll answer them. So we'll give a few more minutes, but the actual drawing process I think is complete, and I've enjoyed this little study, and I will do another one in a few weeks time. I have another idea. It's a river scene with stones and all sorts of lovely things going on. So I've got lots of ideas up here, but again, if you've got anything you fancy me doing on these YouTube streams, then just comment on the, not necessarily now, but comment afterwards, you know, on the playback on the feed. Put a comment in there in that comment section, like it, share it with your friends. That's great. I know most of you are subscribers to my channel, but if you do happen to not be, then hit that subscribe button, please. There's a lot of effort goes into some of these, and or all of these really, and it's nice to know that people can subscribe to the channel. It's free, costs you nothing, and it helps me grow my painting channel. So with that all said and done, stay safe everyone, keep your distance from everybody else, and I look forward to catching you all, each and every one of you, again on Friday. Take care, happy painting, enjoy the sunshine, gardening, whatever you're doing. Bye for now, guys. Bye bye. Oh, sorry, John, I just saw that comment. Have I ever added a bit down the sides of the image breaches into the border? No, I haven't. That was just me pulling off the darn tape very, very badly. Bye, Jeff. Thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again on Friday. No, that was me just being a bit sloppy, John. But because it tore into the surface of the paper, it's going to stay there. I'm not going to get that off. So when it comes to matting this up and putting it in a frame, if it gets that far, then the mat will go right up to the edge of it. So that's how I will do all that. Thanks, Wendy. Glad you enjoyed it. I have fun doing it, gotta say. But now I'm going to drink the rest of this and go and get my my Guinness. It's well deserved. Right. About time I turned this off, I think. Anyone got anything else to say before I switch off? I'll wait a couple of minutes just in case there's anything else. Oh, no, sorry, I haven't. No, I don't. Some people do that, John. They actually sort of take the mount card and paint on that too. I really hate that. I find that so naff and crass. It's gimmicky, but it's not a lot more than that. I just like to have the edges define the shape and the form. A lot of my paintings are that way in watercolor, and a lot of my drawings are done that way. I don't. My oils go right up edge to edge, but I just like to see this white paper for some reason around the edge of my watercolors and my sketches and drawings, wherever possible. It's not always possible, and even with the watercolor, sometimes it bleeds and you can't get it. Yeah, I will. I'll enjoy that Guinness, Wendy. Thank you so much. You enjoy your glass of glug. I'm sure you will be having a glass of red if you haven't already had a glass of red. Bye everyone. Catch you all soon. Take care now. Happy painting. Bye bye.